Let's talk about a story we all have been told. It is a story about a path, and you know it well. Work hard in school, get a certificate, gain some experience, step by step, you will be needed. The economy will have a place for you. Your efforts will be met with an opportunity. But I need you to look around you. Look at the graduates delivering food on bicycles. Look at the talented apprentices stuck in unpaid loops. Look at the hustlers working 24/7 with nothing to show for it. Now, I want you to look back at that story. Does it still sound true? Today, I want to challenge that story with one single difficult idea. What if for millions of young people, the path was never real? What if the system as it currently functions never actually planned to need you? This isn't about being late in line. It's about the line itself moving in a different direction. It's about growth that does not require your labor, profits that don't require your participation, and a future being built on a blueprint where you're an afterthought and not a priority. And I want to be clear about why this is the most important conversation we can have. The moment a young person stops internalizing this failure, stops blaming their resume, stops blaming their interview skills and the lack of hustle they have, and starts seeing the architecture of the system, everything changes. Because that shift from personal blame to structural analysis is the first step towards revolution. If youth unemployment was a simple accident, a glitch in the machine, then it would have been corrected by now. We fix accidents in Africa. We have entire industries dedicated to fixing inefficiencies. The fact that this mess, idleness, and underemployment persists, grows, and is met with the same recycled, inefficient solutions tells us a profound truth. This is not a glitch. It is a feature. It is the predictable outcome of a system that is working as designed. And understanding the design is the only way out. So let's break it down layer by layer, starting with the foundational lie that sets everything in motion. Now, this leads to problem one, the capital access gap and the growth development deception. This is the engine room of the entire crisis. We are taught a sacred economic formula. First, you achieve growth measured in GDP, stock markets, and corporate profits. Then, like a rising tide, that growth will magically lift all boats leading to development, which in this case it is jobs, skills, infrastructure, and a widespread prosperity. We are told to chase numbers and the people part will follow. But from the ground, this sequence is backwards. It is a profound deception because true development is building human capability, resilient institutions, and a fair system. That is what is required for us to have sustainable growth. But what we are doing right now is chasing hello growth instead of development. We are harvesting the fruit without ever planting the tree. But let me make this more concrete, right? Imagine a young entrepreneur, very brilliant entrepreneur. Let's say she's from Lagos or from Johannesburg. She has a valuable idea to solve a local problem. She is not lazy. She works about 18 hours a day. But her failure, when it comes, it is almost preordained. Why, Peter? Because she's trying to build a business on an economic ground that was never developed. There is no patient capital for her. Banks see no collateral, no family property, no decade-long credit history. Venture capital, where it exists, flocks proven founders in saturated markets. The International Labour Organization's data is unequivocal. For young people, globally and acutely in Africa, access to finance is the greatest single barrier to enterprise creation and, by extension, job creation. By far, the system demands you start something, but it systematically withholds legal, financial, and network tools required by you as a young person to start, protect, and scale. This isn't empowerment rhetoric. It is a form of abandonment because they want you to stay reliant on them, to be reliant on the system. So you are pushed to be an entrepreneur or to be something in your life, but given no map or no supplies. And when you stumble, they start blaming you and not the path. Why is this? Because they need to push you within to go and do other things that will lead you back to that specific path. That is also systematically the problem. Because if ever they fix the problem entirely, then there is no use for them. So that direction is the trap. It keeps you running in a cage, thinking you are on track, and this is misdirection, flawless, leading us to the next layer of this design. Problem 2. Read economic structure, which is often equivalent to the jobless growth engine. Peter, what are you talking about? Now, let's zoom out from the individual to microeconomic canvas. What is the primary growth in many economies, particularly across Africa? I believe it is capital-intensive extraction and finance, mining, oil, gas, large-scale commercial agriculture, and the financial sector that often services these very industries. But here is the critical malfunction. These sectors are brilliant at generating GDP figures and export revenues, but they are terrible at creating mass employment. A single automated mine can contribute billions to GDP while employing only a few thousand highly skilled workers. As Joseph Stiglitz has meticulously shown, when an economy grows without transforming its underlying structure, without shifting significant resources toward labor-absorbing productive sectors like diverse manufacturing, value-added agro-processing, or scalable tech, that growth becomes jobless. The result is a perverse reality. The national headlines celebrate economic growth, while the lived reality for millions is economic exclusion. The system is chasing GDP figures, but there is no inherent incentive of creating jobs for the young population we have across Africa. So, young people are fed onto an educational pipeline designed for an economy of the past, trained for formal roles that are shrinking and not expanding. So, we have an economic structure that does not need your labor, an educational system that is misaligned with reality. The tension is unbearable. The promised formal work is marriage. What is the human natural response? It is to adapt, to retain, to retrain, to try to mold yourself and shape yourself into this new market we're going into. This is where the system plays its masterstrokes. It points to this very adoption. Your endless upskilling is proof that the system was never with you, and it has always been against you, and it will forever be like this. We always think that we are a important part of the system, but systematically we're just a liability. But they do sometimes use us as an asset to the benefit of the system. But currently, human beings, to the current economic systems that they are, we are a liability. But this takes us to problem 3. Problem 3, the education skills mismatch. You see this one? It's going to be a hard one to take on. I am not here to say education is worthless. That would be foolish. But I am here to say that it is misaligned. Our schools and universities have largely become a credential factory, not ecosystems of adaptive skills development, skills building. They are optimized to produce certificates, not to ensure absorption of human potential into the productive evolving sectors of an economy. The World Bank's diagnoses are damning. They really are. Nearly half of young people in emerging economies are either unemployed or underemployed, not due to their lack of education, but because their skills are irrelevant to the market. The curriculum, burdened by bureaucracy, updates at geographical pace. The market is driven by technology and global flux, which changes in the speed of light. A 4-year degree started in 2020 is based on knowledge from 2018, preparing a graduate for economic landscape from 2016 in a world that will be in 2024 when they finish. We are teaching young people to master typewriters in an age of AI. We teach theoretical business administration in economies dominated by informal hustle. We teach rigged textbooks, models in a world where artificial intelligence is teaching things at the speed of light. The system we have of education does not serve the public because it will not take us anywhere forward because it's built on systems of the past. It is hard to have an educational system that is in the benefit of the people if ever that educational system is not moving with the market at the same time, because it creates a gap, and that's why we'll continue having people who are unemployed. That's why this collides with problem 4. Problem 4, market concentration and the gatekeeping economy. I think I love this one too. This is a silent killer of potential. We imagine the market as a dynamic open arena where the best idea wins. For young entrepreneurs, this is often a fantasy. I've been there. The most key sectors from telecommunications, agriculture, retail, services and more, they are often entrenched by a few corporations. Their power does not just come from market share, but it's control over supply chains, distribution networks, regulatory influence, and access to vast, low-cost capital. Economist Thomas Piketty work has illustrated that extreme wealth concentration leads to opportunity concentration. These gatekeepers don't need to conspire because the structure itself acts as a barricade. A brilliant young app developer finds it hard to develop apps on App Store because the algorithm favors established players. A farmer cannot get his product to the market because the logistics network is blocked by a conglomerate. A new manufacturer cannot compete in the market because cost of regulatory compliance is designed for a large entity, not a startup. This isn't competition because you're being locked out. The message is clear. You have the talent, the idea, the work ethic, but without the keys to the kingdom, which those keys are held by a small interconnected elite group, you will remain a follower and never a leader. You can never change your country because the constitution, the policies and laws that govern your country are stopping you from being successful as an entrepreneur and as a young person as a whole. So the gates of formal economy are shut. That's why it's easy for them to let you be a hustler. They don't have a problem with you being a hustler as long as you won't have access to the real wealth. And the policies that govern you in your countries allow this to happen. This is an act of survival that is systematically engineered into problem 5. Topic 5, informal sector exclusion. And I believe this has to do a lot with being the business trap. Because when you as a young entrepreneur get rejected by the formal structure, you don't vanish, you actually go informal. You trade, you hustle, you drive, you sell, you code, you freelance, you braid hair, you repair phones. Informal sector becomes a life raft for many. In Africa, it is an economy where vast majority of us are in. But here is the cruel twist. While the system is happy that you are busy, to be off the official unemployment statistics and not causing social unrest, it is actively excluding the sector from tools of development. The informal sector businesses struggle to access formal finance. They have no legal protection. The profits are too small for them to invest in scaling. They live in constant fear of harassment by authorities. This creates the busy but poor phenomenon. Young people are working harder than anyone, often 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, but they are on a treadmill of survival. And this is because it is like you're on this side of the land and there's that other side of the land and there's a river between you guys and the current of that river is just too strong. And now to go over, when you try to swim over, it's hard for you. And it's easy for elites because they have helicopter and planes to fly over and then skydive or get off on the other side. But for you, you have to swim. So it's hard for you. Therefore, it's almost close to being impossible because there are barriers that are stopping you from being successful. This is a systematic thing because the policies and laws that govern you were never in the benefit of you, but they're in the benefit of elites who actually have the resources to do everything that is needed for them to do everything they need to do, but you don't. So it gets to create a circular flow of you continuously failing to do specific things, and the blame gets to be shifted on you. So it is a spray of smoothing the mists of hope, which leads to the final result of problem 6. Problem 6, policy disorder and the hope industrial complex. Now, this is where the cynicism of the system becomes fully visible. Faced with structural crises above, the official response is almost universally a series of fragmented short-term interventions. For example, the 6-month internship that teaches you no transferable skill, the weekend entrepreneurship bootcamp, the one-time youth grant that is so small to start a business, but it's perfect to buy a smartphone. The innovation challenge that produces a dozen of winners, but ignores 10,000s of equal deserving participants. I have seen this in my own community. Young people becoming professional trainees, cycling from one program to the next. Their hope renewed every 6 months. Their actual position unchanged for years. These are not economy programs. They are political and social stabilizers. They are part of the Hope Industrial Complex, a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem of NGOs, government departments, and consulting firms that profit from managing disillusionment. Their success metric is not jobs created or businesses scaled, but number of youths engaged and the certification survey scores. They are designed to create a feeling of progress, to inject just enough optimism to keep the young person quiet and compliant while carefully avoiding any intervention that would truly disrupt the entrenchment of exclusionary systems of the problems from 1 to 6. And guys, this is sad. It really is. So it takes us to this. So even when we're presented with these 6 interlocking problems, the system's most potent defense mechanism kicks in. It is the internalization of failure. This teaches you to individualize systematic output. So if you're unemployed, for example, you get to blame yourself that you do not network enough, that's why you're unemployed. But that's not true. That's just a glimpse of it. And this is a psychological trick that is used by a system that produces mass failure and convinces you, the one who's failed, that you alone are at fault. But we must see the chain, guys. We must really see the chain. The system is against you. It is not with you. It is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. From problem 1 to problem 6, this proves that the system is functioning exactly as designed, because we have entire industries that are ready and are built to fix inefficiency. So this is not an inefficient problem because the system is working exactly as designed. So it's very important we understand this, because to move forward and change our lives as the young people of each and every economy that's within Africa, it requires us to understand this, because a system that produces these predictable mass outcomes across the continent isn't failing. It is functioning with a brutal, precise logic. It is designed to generate wealth for the few while using the labor and hope of the many to fuel it without sharing equally the power. So youth unemployment is not a mastery. It is a masterpiece of modern economic and social engineering. It is the logical conclusion of choices made about what happens more: short-term extractive profiting or long-term human development. Once you see this clearly, you are free. You are free from the shame, You are free from waiting for an invitation that was never sent. Your energy is no longer consumed by trying to fit in a broken room, but it is liberated to start drawing the blueprints that will lead to a brighter future for you. So the most important thing a young person can do today is to stop waiting for a system to change and to start building the system you need. That is the uncomfortable, necessary, and ultimately hopeful conversation we must have and must act upon. Thank you so much.